you for doing this interview. Tell me, please, where you grew up, and tell me just a little bit about your family.
Okay, I grew up in Hawthorne, California.
I'm sorry. Whenever the one thing is when there's a disturbance of a car or something, we might have to start again. So
Oh,
start once more. Start more.
okay. Uh, I I was born. Well, I grew up in Hawthorne, California, and uh, no, I forgot what yours.
Okay,
Yeah.
tell me just where is Hawthorne and what did
Oh
your
yeah.
parents do?
Okay, I grew up in Hawthorne, California. It's about 15 miles south of Los Angeles, and my parents had a farm, and they grew vegetables, and I went to school, the grammar school at Eucalyptus, and that was about a couple blocks away. But where I lived, on one side of this Inglewood Avenue where we lived, were all the farms, and on the other side was the civilized part of Hawthorne, which had the sidewalks and lights and the sewers and all that. And we didn't have sewage connection, so we had the old country outhouse, but we did have water and electricity. And all my friends lived on the other side of the street, Inglewood Avenue, and I would go through the white community to go to school, and most of my friends were in that area. But on the Japanese side, if I can say, Japanese side of Inglewood Avenue, there was three families with kids my age, and I used to go play with them. But it was kind of funny because I felt, I think I felt more comfortable playing with my Japanese friends, but I was actually at home on the other side playing with my white friends. But the occasional slurs, "Are you a Jap?" It was just more a question until after the war, when the war started. Then the expression changed a little bit, the way they said it. And there was this man. He lived on this street that I had to walk by to go to school, and he used to just stare at me. But after the war broke out, uh, he said, "You're a Jap," and and that really hurt because I don't know. He never smiled or said hello to me before, but just that having him say that at one time, it was the manner in which he said it. I guess and it really hurt. And so it was after that then we were told we had to move, evacuate.
I want to get to that in a minute. Let's just go back
Okay.
for that. So there was really a separation, like literally one side of the street was farms, and that was more Japanese
Right.
families. Can you
Right.
tell me that once more? Just say it was literally just separated, but we were friends.
Well, we was actually, I guess it was separated because farmland at that time. Uh, my parents, they weren't citizens, so they couldn't own land. So most of the Japanese farmers were leasing land. If they had a child old enough, 21, they could buy, but that was pretty hard too. But my father, all he could, I think the term was like 4 year leases. And so every 4 years, I guess if we couldn't renew, we'd have to move.
Tell me, you have siblings?
I have two sisters. My sisters, they're both older than I, and we never talked too much about their experiences or mine as far as relationships with our white friends, because they went to high school or junior high, and seems to me though they never complained. Um,
So you did have some good friends in the white side.
oh yeah, uh, I had a bunch of real good friends, and this
Can you
right.
say? Can you? I'm sorry. Can you just tell me you had good friends that were on the white side of the street too?
Yeah, I did.
No, you
Yeah.
have to say that in a full sentence.
Yeah, I had a lot of good friends on the white side of the street. As a matter of fact, right across from us, there lived a family of three boys, uh, Ewell, Raymond, and Dean. And I used to go play with them. And across the street, there was the Walters. And up the block, there was this Jack Skofgard, whom I met recently again at a reunion here last year. But anyway, I did have quite a few white friends, so it was kind of interesting now that I think of it, because not many of my friends my age who lived in the same kind of farm situations had that many white friends. But I was right on the border, so I guess that's why it was it was pretty neat actually.
So tell me what happened when you. Yeah, look at me as much as you possibly can.
Oh, okay.
Um, actually, let's cut and let's just make sure everyone's happy. Let's keep going then. How? Tell me how you heard the news about Pearl Harbor. What were you doing?
Okay, I was with my Japanese friends that day, and it was in the afternoon, and my friend Billy Kramer, he came riding up on his bicycle, and he says, "All right, just put your hands up." And that was the first time I heard him say that, and he was smiling, and I guess he saw the puzzled look on my face and and the faces of my friends, and so he says, "Oh, I guess you didn't hear we're at war with Japan," and that's how I got the news of the war. And
Was he kidding?
pardon me?
Was he kidding?
No, he was well, yeah, he was kidding when he made that remark about put up your hands, and
Tell me again, just because just what did he say exactly? He came riding up on his bicycle, and what did he say?
he says, "Put up your hand, you Japs," and we looked at. I really was surprised,
I'm sorry.
and I
Sorry.
okay, and I was really surprised, stunned that he would say something like that, but he was smiling, kind of laughing like so. I knew he wasn't serious, but then he saw how puzzled we were, so he went on to explain, and that's how I got the news.
You came home, and you found out that he told you that we're at war with Japan. That was the first you heard of it, and what did you do next? Or how'd your parents find out?
Well, I don't actually know how they found out. I never really really asked them, but they knew when I came home. Shortly after that, after he told me, I left my Japanese friends. I went with him, and we went to his house, and then I came home, and I don't recall exactly what I did after that, but yeah, my parents were in the kitchen and they were talking, and they had come in from the field, and that's actually all I remember of that.
Did people start treating you differently after the war started?
After the war started, there was a little. I really didn't notice that great change in how I was treated, except as the days went on by and the news became. Every day there was something about Japs in the newspaper, and that's when some of my the kids I knew at school started referring to me as that Jap, and it wasn't too long after that that we were told we had to evacuate the area, the coastal area, and.
Well, you told me a story about the teacher telling you don't worry about this. Can you tell me that again? Like how you said some kids called your name at school, but this teacher said don't worry, this is America, you're going to be okay. Tell me about that.
Yeah, well, Mrs. McAlpine was my seventh grade teacher. I was in her room, and she heard this one kid call me a Jap, and she had heard that we were going to have to leave. And so she called me up to her desk and she told me, you know, Sam, this is America. You don't have to worry. You'll be safe. And I'm sorry that you have to leave. And she had her arms kind of around my shoulders and she had, kind of breaks me up. She had tears in her eyes too. And she told me never to worry, that everything would be all right. And when the war is over, that we'll probably be able to come back. And so it was a very sad day actually at school for me. But then there was two other Japanese girls in the class, and I saw her calling them up, and I knew they were crying too. But I guess that was very reassuring at that time. But also it was very scary and sad, and yeah, I hated to leave.
Was your class like half Japanese, half white?
No, my class was mostly white. Um, I think we three were the only Japanese in that class. In the whole school, there was about 6 or 7 Japanese school. That was this Washington Junior High School, is what it was. Middle school, I guess.
What did you think about the fact that you all had to leave?
Well, I wondered why we had to leave, but then they thought we were going to do sabotage, and we were suspected of, well, they were afraid of us, when actually we were so afraid that for our safety, our own safety. But I thought it was terrible that we had to move because I thought, well, here I am, and I'm an American citizen, and we had just studied all that history and civics, and our rights were being violated, and I just couldn't understand why they were doing that to us, to me, and here, because I always felt very patriotic. I think having a lot of white friends too made me feel a lot more that way also, and
Sorry, made you feel a lot more what way?
more patriotic, more like a citizen who belonged. You know, I think they probably had a very strong influence on me in that way. I must have started feeling like one of them, actually, and so. I guess I think back now, it was very mixed, mixed emotions, a mixed childhood there.
You were in America.
Yeah, I guess I wasn't, but you know, I felt very Japanese, and that's, I guess, yeah, my home life is all Japanese, and my outside life was practically all white.
Now, did you continue to visit your friends, and did their families treat you any differently?
I didn't go out to visit too many friends after that for about 2 or 3 weeks before we moved, and there was a curfew, and we didn't go to school anymore, and so I didn't see any of my friends. Actually, I just hung around home and didn't go out. I just went to the grocery store maybe with my dad a couple of times, but other than that, you know, we couldn't be outside at night. Yeah. And
Could your friends come visit you?
yeah, a couple of them did come,
And
but they just came to say goodbye, actually. Yeah.
so tell me about being how people, just say a little again, we talked about being Japanese and how people would say, oh, you're a Jap and damn Japs and all that. That term wasn't used beforehand, but now it was being used. Tell me about that.
Well, I've always heard that we were referred to as Japs. I mean, through my older friends would say, oh, yeah, I got called Jap here and I got called Jap there. And my dad would occasionally say, yeah, they don't like us and they call us Japs, so, but don't pay any attention to that. And so I, actually though, I didn't. I really didn't like that term. Uh, I really didn't understand why, but when you think you're being called a name, a derogatory name, I guess it just registers in that way with you, and internally you're hurt by it. And yeah, I used to get very hurt by that term, especially when they said that to me, or whenever I heard them uh, as I'm walking by or something, they'll say something, oh, that he's a Jap or something in that way. That used to bother me.
Well, and also once America's at war, I think that was one of the big headlines after Japan bombed Pearl Harbor was Japs get out or Japs,
Yeah,
and that's
yeah,
like different than Americans.
yeah, yeah.
Didn't,
That was very hurtful. Uh, Japs not allowed. They Some places had those little signs, Japs not allowed. And these stores that we used to go into, I know this one dime store, five and dime store. I used to play with this kid. He was kind of a rich kid, but I used to play with him. He used to play with me, but one day there was this little sign on the father's store, no Japs allowed, and that really kind of surprised me.
was this
But
after Pearl Harbor?
yes, it's after Pearl Harbor. Until then, we were friends. I used to go over his house, and what really surprised me was, well, now wait a minute. See, he was Jewish. And maybe he didn't put it up. Maybe someone else put it up, come to think of it, because it was only up there for a couple of days. Yeah, that's right. I'm remembering a lot more things now.
So, so what happened? You said you asked your mom and asked you why this was happening. I mean, tell me about asking your parents to try to explain to you.
Well, when I asked my parents about why are we being the victims so victimized and being pushed away from our home, and they said, well, it's the war, and we are Japanese, and I guess these things just can't be helped, so there isn't much we can do, so just bear with it, And so primarily that's how we had to approach it, like there was nothing that can be done. You know that Japanese have a saying, it's shikata ga nai. That means it can't be helped. And also this other word, gaman, which means, okay, you'll bear with it. And so primarily that's what we did. Well, we had no choice. We didn't know what else to do anyway, so.
When your mother said we're Japanese, didn't you ever think, no, I'm not, I'm American?
I never thought, whenever I was with my parents, it was funny, I was always just Japanese. And we used to go to Japanese school on every Saturday and learn how to write and read Japanese. And I guess in that way, it made us, our ties with Japan a little stronger. So I guess there's all these things on this poor little boy who didn't really understand life, but that's what made him a whole person, I guess. The cultures of two countries. I guess I'm richer for it.
I would say. So now let's cut. I'll take a moment. Tell me what your parents did with all the family possessions.
Okay, when we found out, okay, we had to leave, I think we had about a week, and my father was frantically running around trying to sell off as much as he could. He had the 2 horses, and he just gave them away practically, $10 a piece for them. And he had this steak truck, and I believe if he got 40 or $50 for it, he was lucky. Most everything else, the tractor, the farm equipment, he just had to leave it. And he was able to sell the hay, almost gave that away. He had just planted crops, and they were growing, and he's a farmer. So before we left, he irrigated everything so it wouldn't die. So whoever came in could take care of it. And we left the house. All the personal things, some of the dishes and things they brought from Japan. They stored them in a box and took it to a friend's place and stuck it in their barn above, I guess it was a loft. And so they just lost everything they had, actually. And all we could take was what we could carry.
Which was what?
A couple of suitcases of clothes mostly. And see, we couldn't take any knives or scissors, but I'm sure everybody snuck in a little bit. But
Did you know how long you were going to be gone for?
I thought we were going to be gone forever because there was nothing mentioned or said that we were going to be able to come back, and we did not know how the war was going to go, and I thought, gosh, what would happen if if America lost? And that was a great concern. Oh my gosh. And then I really didn't worry too much if it went the other way. If Japan lost, I knew that we would be taken care of, that we wouldn't be killed or anything. But where we would be was a big question mark.
And the fact that you have all these white friends and neighbors, did they offer to help you with your stuff?
No, they pretty much stayed away.
Complete sentence?
Yeah, except
Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. Car going by. Okay, start again with a complete sentence about your neighbors.
okay, my neighbors they didn't come, and they knew we were going to have to move, but my dad had a couple of well, he had a shotgun and a 22, and I remember I yelled across to you, this friend, and to come over, and would he like to have, or his father, would his father like to have the shotgun and the 22, and so yeah, they took it, and I think that was the last time I saw him.
Was somebody else going to come and like farm the property, or?
No, we did not know anything at all about that. It was just going to be abandoned, and simply that. That was it.
So let's get you off and onto the train. What was the train ride like to Arkansas?
Well, the train, the car that we got on, it was old, dusty. They had just brought it in from some storage yard. And see, the benches, they were wooden benches, actually. And we had to keep the shades down. And it was very uncomfortable and hot. And for meals, they would bring by sack lunches. And we would sit at our little benches and eat. And we never knew where we were, actually. It was very uncomfortable sleeping in a sitting position.
So you had to actually, how many of you on a bench? Just give me a description, because I'm
Okay, our family had 2 facing benches, and that was it. And the whole car was occupied in that manner. I don't know how many people there were, but it was all packed.
So how many days did you sit up?
So that was, I think it was 3 days and 4 nights. Or no, I guess it was the other way around. 4 days, 3 nights. Yeah, because we got to Arkansas during the daytime.
So tell me that in a complete sentence. I'm trying to get the idea that how many days and nights you actually all sitting up on these wooden benches and, you know.
Okay, we left the Santa Anita racetrack to the assembly center, and we boarded the train early in the morning, and for 4 days and 3 nights, we all just sat. We didn't get to wander around too much. There was this one. We all shared this one bathroom that was on the train, and gosh, it was all cramped, hot. We couldn't go anywhere, and we had to sleep sitting up, and that actually was torture. And yet, when we got to some of the, I guess when we got into the interior, like Arizona, Colorado, they some of us will open the shades a little bit, but they never said anything. So that's the first time I saw part of the United States that I'd never seen before. And I remember Oklahoma. My friends that lived across the street came from Oklahoma, and they said, "Oh yeah, our soil is red over there." And like in Hawthorne, the soil was adobe black. And so I was seeing this red soil. I thought, "Oh my gosh, I guess he was telling the truth," because I really didn't believe red soil existed.
What about crossing? Tell me about crossing the Mississippi.
Yeah, that we finally got to a river, and people started saying, "Oh my, that's the Mississippi," and that was the largest river I'd ever seen. Of course, I hadn't seen too many rivers anyway, but that was huge. And we went across, and I wondered, why are we going across to Tennessee? I think we went into Memphis, and then we stayed there, maybe an hour, a little over an hour, and I guess they were switching cars or something. We came back across the river, and it really was, for that moment, very awesome to see the Mississippi River. This is where Tom Sawyer and Huck Finn lived, and I couldn't believe I was actually seeing this river that I'd read so many stories about. And that kind of was actually a magic moment for a lot of us. For me, it was. And then we finally crossed the river. I kept trying to look back at it, but of course, train, you can't see much after you pass over. But that was quite a moment for me to see.
Did you know you were going to Arkansas?
Yes, I heard we were going to Arkansas. I didn't know exactly where this Denson was, or Jerome. And, well, when we finally got there, the train just stopped in the middle of nowhere. And I looked out, oh my gosh, why are we stopping? And someone says, "Oh, it must be Jerome." And I didn't see anything. It was just total boondocks. It was so different from where I came from. Street trees, telephone poles, street lamps, sidewalks, houses, houses, bunch of houses. And here was nothing but trees. Not
Yeah. Okay. So